trial ever in the history of the United States. The charges brought against Secretary Mayorkas failed to meet the high standard of high crimes and misdemeanors. To validate this gross abuse by the House would be a grave mistake and could set a dangerous precedent for the future. For the sake of the Senate's integrity and to protect impeachment for those rare cases we truly need it, senators should dismiss today's charges. So when we convene in trial today, to accommodate the wishes of our Republican Senate colleagues, I will seek an agreement for a period of debate time that would allow Republicans to offer a vote on trial resolutions, allow for Republicans to offer points of order, and then move to dismiss. Let's not kid ourselves about what's going on today. The impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas has nothing to do with high crimes and misdemeanors, and everything to do with helping Donald Trump on the campaign trail. Secretary Mayorkas has not been accused of treason or accepting bribes or unlawfully attacking our elections or anything of the sort. He has not been accused of criminal wrongdoing. He did not blackmail a foreign power to dig dirt on a political opponent, nor did he incite a violent mob to wage an insurrection against the peaceful transfer of power. Instead, the hard right wants to exploit the supremely serious matter of impeachment for the sake of cable news hits and content for social media. This is an illegitimate and profane abuse of the U.S. Constitution. The framers were clear. Impeachment should never be used to settle policy disagreements. Legal scholars from across the ideological spectrum have agreed to the same for decades. Even the Wall Street Journal editorial board, the darling of the conservative intelligentsia, argued a few months ago that, quote, a policy dispute doesn't qualify as a high crime and misdemeanor, unquote. If our House Republicans want to have a debate about the border, Democrats are glad to have it. But instead of wasting time on impeachment, we should debate bipartisan legislation to secure our border once and for all. In fact, that is precisely what we tried to do in this chamber just a few months ago. I worked with a handful of Democrats and Republicans to draft the strongest border security bill to come before the Congress in decades, before Donald Trump and the hard right killed it in its tracks. It was everything that what Republicans could have wanted and more. A bill to hire more Border Patrol agents, reform asylum, fight the fentanyl crisis, and create brand new powers for the president to close the border. It was strong, strong stuff. And the National Border Council, the National Border Patrol Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and the ultimate conservative Wall Street Journal editorial board all threw their support behind our bipartisan bill. If both chambers would have voted on it, I am certain it would have passed and be signed by the president. But that's precisely why Donald Trump and the hard right were afraid of it. Instead of providing a solution to the border, Donald Trump and his MAGA radicals want to exploit the border for political gain. And today, with this trial, MAGA radicals want to likewise exploit our Constitution and try to gain an edge on the campaign trail. It is beneath the dignity of the Senate to entertain this nakedly partisan exercise, one that both conservative and liberal legal scholars agree fails to meet the high standard demanded by impeachment. So I will say it again. Impeachment should never, never be used to settle policy disagreements. That would set a disastrous precedent for the Congress and could throw our system of checks and balances into endless cycles of chaos. Now on Senate business. The Senate might be stuck addressing the House's bogus impeachment charges, but that doesn't erase the fact that we have a lot of work to do in the Congress in the upcoming days. Before April 19th, the Senate must come to an agreement on FISA reauthorization. Last night, I filed cloture on the motion to proceed to the House-passed FISA bill, and that vote is set to take place tomorrow. Democrats and Republicans are going to have to reach an agreement if we want to get FISA reauthorization done before the deadline. Otherwise, this very important tool for ensuring our national security is going to lapse, and that would be unacceptable. The House has not made our jobs any easier with this bogus impeachment trial, but that doesn't let us off the hook to work together quickly to get FISA reauthorization done. On another important matter, we are still waiting to see how Speaker Johnson and House Republicans will proceed on the National Security Supplemental Package. One way or another, I fervently hope, that we can finally finish the job in the next couple of days. But that is not certain and will depend a lot on what the House does. The entire world is waiting to see what House Republicans will do about aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, humanitarian assistance, and aid to the Indo-Pacific. Putin is watching very closely to see if America will step up and show strength or slink away from a friend in need. And anyone who thinks the war in Ukraine is just a regional conflict in Eastern Europe, the Chinese Communist Party would beg to differ. If President Xi sees America waffle in helping Ukraine, he may conclude that we will similarly get cold feet in the Indo-Pacific. Congress must finish the work on the supplemental once and for all. The time for waiting and delay has long been over. I urge House Republicans to continue working in a bipartisan spirit to get this aid passed. The security of America, of our friends abroad, and of Western democracy itself demands that we act. Now, later today, President Biden will call for the tripling of tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from China. This is a strong and decisive response to continued unfair trade practices by China. I've been a loud and fervent advocate of higher tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum imports for years. When I first became senator, I saw for myself how unfair Chinese practices were carving away at American production and American jobs. The deck has long been stacked against U.S. steel and aluminum workers for years because of the Chinese government. For China, the equation's simple. They overproduce steel and aluminum with the help of subsidies and low-cost labor, then flood markets with these cheap products, and then dominate any competition and reap the profits. American businesses end up falling further and further behind. Critically, the president is also calling for action to prevent companies from routing steel and aluminum imports through Mexico in an attempt to circumvent the tariffs. There is perhaps no industry that has felt the impact of China's unfair trade practices than shipbuilding. The U.S. was once a global leader, but now we produce less than 1% of the world's commercial ships. Over the last 2 decades, China has dramatically increased its dominance of the shipbuilding industry, putting American businesses and workers at risk and jeopardizing our national security. So the president's announcement today is a welcome step to getting American steel and aluminum businesses back on the level playing field with China. I can assure you, Mr. President, there's no shortage of American businesses ready to step up and compete in the global market. In my home state of New York, union steelworkers in places like Western New York and Messina helped forge the steel and aluminum that built America's bridges and buildings, and they stand ready alongside other manufacturing powerhouse communities in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere, who built America from the ground up. So I commend the president for a strong and decisive call to triple the tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from China, and Democrats will keep working to bring American businesses and workers back on the level with the world. And finally, Mr. President, today we're mourning a colleague and former member of this chamber, Bob Graham, who passed away yesterday at the age of 87. Bob and I only served for a few years, but it didn't take long to realize he was a man of great integrity. He was a devoted public servant who dedicated his entire life to his beloved Florida, from the state legislature to the governor's mansion to the halls of the United States Senate. Our prayers are with his family and his loved ones. Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of S. Con. Res. 33.